Hey guys, what's going on? Banana156 here with another video. Remember, subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. And yeah, let's get right into the video. And since it seems like you guys have been liking the Puss in Boots videos, they've been doing really well, I thought I'd make another video about another character I found really interesting and actually really enjoyed. And that character is Jack Horner. And I know that seems kind of odd because Jack Horner is not likable at all. He's just straight up not a good person. He's not likable whatsoever. But I did enjoy him, and I did find him like really refreshing compared to a lot of other characters that we see in modern day cinema. And I thought I would want to talk about that and why Jack Horner is a good villain, because he's very refreshing. So yeah, so let's get right into it. Well, first of all, before we talk about why Jack Horner's a good villain, I want to talk about some of the other villains that we've seen throughout media and yeah. So with a lot of modern day villains that we see in cinema, we can see that a lot of them are you are meant to relate to them and kind of understand where they're coming from. Like one big example of this that I can just think of off the top of my head is Thanos. If you look at Thanos, we can see that yes, he is a mad titan, and yes, he does do absolutely atrocious things. But is he really wrong? Does he really have a wrong idea about things? Well, if you look into it, he really doesn't. Natural resources being depleted is a real issue, and killing off half the population is a solution to that issue, although not a very good one. It's still a solution. You know? Like, he did see a problem that is completely valid and did come up with a solution to it. And yes, he did go about solving this problem in a very terrible way that caused a lot of death and suffering, and he was quite a cruel person. But at the end of the day, he wasn't that wrong. And he was very easy to relate to, especially with his relationship with Gamora and Nebula. They made him a person and made him quite relatable, and that's not a bad thing. Thanos is an absolutely incredible character, and it's phenomenal what they did with him, but Thanos isn't the only villain that they do this to. It seems like almost every Marvel villain is relatable in some way and isn't just bad. There's always some kind of catch. Like Green Goblin in Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh, he's mentally ill and has a personality disorder. Okay, you can't be that mad at him for his actions because it's not him doing it. It's going goblin mode or whatever. You know, it's not him doing it, so you can't be mad at it. Or the Vulture in Spider-Man, in the first Spider-Man Tom Holland movie. He's just a dad trying to pay for his kids' stuff. You know, he's just trying to provide for his family. You can't be that mad at him for it. You know, he's a good guy. He's easy to relate to. And you see, this happens consistently throughout the Marvel Universe, where the villains are very easy to relate to and aren't just bad. They aren't just bad people. There's always some motive that you can kind of relate to and understand why they do what they do. Where with Jack Horner, this is not the case. Jack Horner had everything. Jack Horner has no motive for being the way he is. Jack Horner is just fucking evil. That's his whole thing, is Jack Horner's just a shit person. And I absolutely love it. It's just so funny how cruel he can be. And yeah, it's just amazing. just amazing how fucking terrible he is. And it's really refreshing because with Marvel villains, especially in the recent Marvel movies, we can see that they all can be construed as good people if you look at them through the right lens, and you can all understand their motive and understand where they're coming from. Where with Jack Horner, he's just a piece of shit. And that's all there is to him, and I love it. He's just a villain. He's just evil. He's just pure evil. And it feels like it's been a really long time since we've gotten pure evil villains, and that's why Jack Horner is so refreshing. But let's talk about, now that we talked about like relatable villains from Marvel, let's talk about another huge franchise that has the same problem that Marvel does. Well, it's not really a problem, but it's just a way they portray their villains, where the villains are just relatable and not that bad. And this isn't all the villains in this universe, because I am quite familiar with it, but yeah, so let's get into it. And that is the Star Wars universe. Almost every single villain in the Star Wars universe is not all the way bad. There's always something there that is why they are the way that they are. Like, for example, let's look at Anakin. Anakin was a slave. He was sold into slavery as a kid. Then when he got freed, he was basically sent into religious slavery, where he was forced to join a cult where he couldn't have any emotions, couldn't have any attachments, and was forced to be a general in the Galactic Army, in the Galactic Republic's army, and fight in a war. That's not a great start to any person's life, and it obviously damaged him emotionally and made it so he didn't know quite how to handle his emotions and what to do with. Not to mention his mom dying and that worsening his emotional state and how he handles emotions. And then eventually some evil guy comes and manipulates him and tricks him and plays on his ability to not or on his inability to handle emotions, and pretty soon he's Darth Vader just like that. Like, it's not Anakin's fault. He had a terrible upbringing and had a terrible childhood and was brought up in one of the worst ways possible. You can't blame the guy. And you can see in the way that he acts in the later films that he is incredibly remorseful for what he did. And he is just a broken person. And he's not really a villain, he's more of a tragedy. And it's not just him that's like this. Like the video I did on Count Dooku earlier. Count Dooku isn't really a villain. He's an idealistic person who wanted the best for the Republic, but was manipulated and pushed away, and that led him down a dark road to becoming a villain. And yeah, you can see this kind of trope a lot with Star Wars villains, where they were genuinely good people that just were manipulated and got played on by actually evil people, and that sent them down a road of being just terrible people and being villains. Like, we see that with Anakin, Count Dooku, and we can also see it with Darth Maul. Look at Darth Maul. He was a kid born to the Night Sisters, and he was taken by Palpatine and forced into this horrible ideology of being a Sith, and forced to do all these terrible things and go through absolutely grueling punishments in service for Palpatine. And it destroyed him. It made him into the monster that we see in the Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars, and eventually into the... I don't know how to describe his character in Rebels, but it's just this old person who's bitter and just fed up and just full of hatred because he was completely destroyed by Palpatine. So when we look at Marvel and we look at Star Wars, we can see that Marvel villains are genuinely good people who have good ideas, who are either forced into doing something because of their circumstances, or have a good idea or a good potential idea, but just go about achieving that idea in the wrong way. And with Star Wars, we can see these villains were genuinely great people, but because of certain circumstances, they got manipulated or pulled in, and it led to them falling to the dark side and becoming these villains, while they are really just broken people, like Anakin, who's just completely broken when he's Darth Vader, or Darth Maul, who's full of hatred and bitterness, and that's not their fault. They were manipulated and taken at a young age and put in terrible circumstances. But once again, if we look at Jack Horner, Jack Horner has none of that going for him. So let's talk about a few scenes in Jack Horner's backstory just to illustrate how terrible of a person Jack Horner is and how refreshing it is to see a villain that is just impossible to relate to and just purely evil. So with Jack Horner's backstory, we can see that his family owned a bakery that was very successful. He had a lot of money when he was young, very wealthy, and the only real thing that was wrong with his childhood was that he was only part of a nursery rhyme and not like an actual fairy tale. That's the only real complaint he has. And yeah, he had loving parents, a mansion, all those things that he even says in the movie. And we can see that that doesn't matter. He had the best upbringing possible. He had everything in the world. But at the end of the day, he still turned out to be a shit person. And we can see that throughout his life. I'm not exactly sure on the backstory because it doesn't show his life before this point. But I assume he did some very nefarious acts to get all those magical gadgets that he had. He probably killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people to get those magical gizmos. And yeah, and let's look at one particular scene where the people bring the map to the wishing star. He promises to pay them with their weight in gold. So do you know what he does? He takes the hand of Midas, touches one of them, turns them gold, gives it to the other one. I mean, he did live up to his word, but that's the most shitty way you could do that possible. It's just a terrible thing to do, and I love just how casually evil he is. Or how in the scene where him, Puss, Kitty Softpaws, and Perito are fighting him, he's just casually killing all of his own men, and he doesn't care at all. He's just killing them and killing them and killing them, and he's just excited because he found out what the unicorn horns do. And how he made his men be a bridge for his carriage to go across, or just every little thing he did. And I haven't even talked about what his wish for the wishing star was. His wish for the wishing star was to have all the magic in the world so he could absolutely destroy it and or rule it or whatever he wants. And yeah, it's just he's just a terrible person, and it's really refreshing because it seems like in modern media every villain we get is either a tragedy or is relatable in some way because they're just doing it because of poor circumstances or they have a good idea. They're just going about it the wrong way. They're all relatable or a tragedy of some sort, and Jack Horner is neither of those things. He is a purely evil being who just wants everything, and it's just funny. And honestly, some of the scenes with Jack Horner are the funniest in the whole movie. I absolutely love him. He's a phenomenal character and exactly what villains need to be right now, I think. I think we've gotten too many villains that are relatable and sob stories. I think we need some villains that are just purely evil and just want to go kill things and go kill people and go rule things. That's what I think. I think we need more purely evil villains, and yeah, it's just really refreshing to see a villain like Jack Horner. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit different. I know Jack Horner is not the most popular character from the new Puss in Boots movie, but I just found him really refreshing and wanted to make another video about it, a video about him. And since you guys have been enjoying the Puss in Boots videos and they've been doing pretty well, I thought why not make another one, see how it does, and talk about a character that I really enjoyed and thought was really funny. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, do all that jazz. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys Friday.